Back in Trump's first term, he had many people in his administration that were actually working against his agenda. And one of those people was Mike Pompeo. Now, ostensibly, Mike Pompeo was a big supporter of Trump during his term. Pompeo was the director of the CIA, and he was the Secretary of State. And on camera, he always was very complimentary of Trump, never said a bad word, always acted very friendly and very supportive. But behind the scenes, Pompeo was really working for the deep state and was actually thwarting what Trump was trying to do. And that is why in 2024, Trump kept Pompeo at arm's length. And there were Trump supporters who were worried that Pompeo would worm his way back into the administration. And Trump understood this, which is why he put out a post on Truth Social saying that while he thanks Pompeo for his service, that he would not be part of his second administration. So Trump recognized that Pompeo was a snake and wants him to be nowhere near his administration this second time around. And in fact, he recently canceled Pompeo's security detail. And the deep state was not very happy with that. And they were saying, well, Pompeo was threatened by the Iranians and you're taking away his detail. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. But I think this is a sign, or, well, it is a sign from Trump saying that I know who you are, Pompeo. You are not part of my team. And I recognize that you are not my friend. So Pompeo is not a good guy. And again, he works for the deep state. And just to really show you where he's coming from, there's a video where Pompeo talks about the CIA and what they did at the CIA. And this is a very interesting clip.
When I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
Good stuff there, Mike. We at the CIA, we lie, we cheat, we steal. And my gosh, if there was ever a reason to shut down the CIA, what do they do, the CIA, besides spy on Americans, plan coups in other countries, destabilize the world generally, and perhaps in the case of JFK, kill presidents. So I am not a fan of the CIA, and I'm not a fan of Mike Pompeo. But I will say this. He did graduate at the top of his class at West Point, and he is a smart guy, which is a really good reason not to have him anywhere near you, because he is capable in getting stuff done, but of course in the wrong direction. So with this in mind, Pompeo put out a tweet or a post on X, and it said this. This is a good first step. President Trump and I always put America first by accepting the world as it is for the starting point, not as someone wished the world to be. Taiwan is an independent, sovereign nation. That is reality. The United States should recognize this reality. Now, I'm not exactly sure what reality he's talking about, because the world does not treat Taiwan as an independent state, and the U.S. government does not recognize Taiwan as an independent state. And I like what he says in the beginning here. President Trump and I always put America first. And again, even in 2025, he's still pretending, because he's a clever guy, that he's on Trump's team and that he is America first. Well, if you really were America first and you really were on Trump's side, why did he not bring you along in this second term? Especially since you were a former director of the CIA and a former Secretary of State. Because you're not America First, and he does not trust you. But unfortunately, Pompeo is not the only person pushing for this. There is a gentleman named Tom Tiffany. He is a Republican from Wisconsin, and he put forth a bill in Congress where he's joined by another 23 Republicans in the House that aims to formally recognize Taiwan as autonomous. And of course, that would be a huge change in our Taiwan Chinese foreign policy. Right now, it is the policy of the U.S. government where we recognize that Taiwan is part of China and that there is the one China policy. So that would be a massive change, and it could be a catastrophic change for the world because we do not know how the Chinese would respond. Well, I think we do know. They probably would use military force if that were to happen. So thankfully, it's only 24 people right now, but there is this push from people like Pompeo and some of the establishment Republicans to push for this Taiwanese independence. And again, right now it's not a lot of people, but in the future, if this stuff in Israel and Ukraine, Russia, if that simmers down and the U.S. government has time and energy to focus their attention elsewhere, that's when this can become a bigger deal. When we pivot toward China, I've been more complimentary of Marco Rubio of late, but one place where I was concerned was how he spoke about China. He did recognize the multipolar world and the fact that any conflict between the two of us would be a real big problem because it would, potentially become nuclear, which would be a world ender. So he did say all that, but he's very, very tough on the Chinese, and he didn't really quite, he hasn't clarified right now his position on Taiwan, China. I think in the moment he's probably trying to avoid that and not, make it too big a deal. But I worry that things could change in a year or so if the Russia-Ukraine conflict were to be settled and the things going on in Gaza were to calm down. The deep state, the military-industrial complex, always needs an enemy and some place to focus. And clearly, we're in a long pivot toward focusing on China and Taiwan and the Pacific generally. Now, one thing that I thought was interesting, this guy Tom Tiffany, the Republican, he wrote an article in the Washington Times where he talks about Taiwan. And he said this, and I thought this was an interesting part. This is the Washington Times. For starters, Taiwan has never been under the control of mainland China or part of its territory, not even for a single day. Taiwan elects its own leaders, administers its own territory, conducts its own diplomatic and trade relations, sets its own immigration rules, and maintains its own armed forces. All of these are the indisputable hallmarks of a sovereign state. China's bombastic claim that Taiwan has always been an inalienable part of China also collapses under even the most basic scrutiny. Taiwan has been separately governed since before the People's Republic of China was established in 1949, and for the half-century preceding the end of World War II, it was actually part of Japan. So his claim here is that Taiwan has never had anything to do with China and that it already exists as a sovereign state. Now, he's not factually wrong per se, but he's leaving out a lot of detail. And what is that? Well, the Japanese took over the island in 1895, but before that, Taiwan was part of the Qing dynasty for a very long time, back to the 17th century, I believe. And again, then in 1895, the Japanese take it over and they ruled it for 50 years. And you can see here on the map the Qing dynasty and Taiwan off to the right. Now, in the early part of the 20th century, there was the Chinese Civil War that went on for a very long time. You had the People's Republic of China, the communists, who were fighting against the Republic of China, who were supported by the West, who were the liberal side, the more Western party, who was fighting against the communists. And this civil war went on for a very long time until it reached a point where the People's Republic of China gained complete control of the mainland, and the Republic of China retreated to Taiwan. And there was this stalemate. And both sides claimed that they were the authentic ruler of China, mainland China and Taiwan. And we had this situation where the world recognized Taiwan up until the 70s, where they said, okay, China is too big, too powerful, too strong. We can't pretend like Taiwan is the real government of China. And they switched, and then they recognized the PRC in the 1970s. So, technically this war, the Civil War, has never ended. It's just obviously in a state of, where there's no actual military action going on. So Tom Tiffany's article, some of the things he describes are correct, but there's a bigger context he's leaving out. Of course, he's obviously wants to push for the independence of Taiwan for whatever reason, and he's going to ignore parts of it that are, not good for his argument. Now, me personally, here's my position. I'm not Chinese, if you haven't been able to tell, and I'm not from Taiwan. I'm American. I don't want the U.S. government to entangle itself in the affairs of other people and push a country or territory into an action that could be catastrophic. We already have the situation with Ukraine. How is that going right now? 3 years of war, they're losing. It has been absolutely destructive for that country. And as Marco Rubio said, they've been set back 100 years. So looking at that, I'm afraid that my country might again drive another part of the world into a conflict that they can't win, and that will destroy their countries and set them back for decades. And that is not what I want to see. Whatever goes on between China and Taiwan, I think it's their business to settle. I want my government to stay neutral and have relations with both sides that are amicable, but not push either side to take any action. But of course, the reason we're doing this is it's geopolitical. We're the great power trying to limit the growing power, and of course, there's a component of economics where so much of the world's shipping goes through that strait there, and we do not want China to have full control over that, as well as the fact that Taiwan makes a lot of these semiconductors. So it's not about freedom, not about democracy. It's about geopolitics. It's about economics, as usual. But the United States government, we do recognize the one China policy for now. And I did go to the State Department website to recheck that, to make sure that on their website something hadn't changed with this new Rubio administration. But it does say here that we respect the one China policy, and we're not supposed to rock the boat or try to change the status quo. So for now, it's just 24 lawmakers, but we will have to keep an eye on it as time goes on to make sure that this doesn't change. And under Trump Trump does not want a war with China. He does not want that. And I doubt he would support Taiwan becoming independent. So I don't think it's a big concern for now. But again, it's something that we definitely need to keep an eye on. Well, that is it for now. If you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.